Hey everybody, welcome to episode 93 of Adapter Parish, Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights Part 1. We'll be able to get right into it because I want to tell you about our next episode, but it's going to be more of the same. In this episode, we're chatting about the book and a number of its major adaptations going all the way to 1978. In our next episode, we'll pick up from there and go all the way to present-day adaptations of Wuthering Heights. It's a lot in more ways than one. Just remember, we're doing this to ourselves for you. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode or any others that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/adaptcast. We've got a patron-only community and our bi-weekly bonus show, Adapter Parish Plus, with episodes releasing every Tuesday between episodes of this show. We hope you check it out. Show notes from this and all other episodes can be found at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, Episode 93, Wuthering Heights, Part 1. Hello, welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour. All right, do you want to tell everyone what's happening right now?
This is like our 7th take at getting our own names right.
I've been fine. What's your name? What's your name?
Ari Libshaw.
Okay.
And today we're going to be talking about Wuthering Heights.
Is that why we're having such trouble with this? Because of the pressure of doing fucking Wuthering Heights?
Yeah, I mean,
why did we do this to ourselves?
It is appropriate to be doing Wuthering Heights today, the sort of epitome of a book about ultimate suffering, because I myself am suffering from something.
Yeah, from fucking allergies.
So I have always known that I'm allergic to these little white floaty things that float around in the air in the May time of the year, in the springtime of the year, the beautiful time, the white things that float around in the air. And I never really knew what they were called, but I just knew whenever I saw them floating in the air, I was going to have a bad time. And we moved into this house, and right up on the corner of our street are multiple fucking cottonwood trees. I found out what they're called. They're called cottonwood trees. We live directly beneath many of them.
We basically live inside one. We're like elves inside the tree.
And
except
so
we're allergic to the tree.
For a week or two every spring, you look outside and it looks like it's snowing on our street because of this cotton fluff stuff that, like, I don't know, like, I've never been tested for it, but like I have a pretty clear cause and effect connection, like going back years whenever I see this stuff in the air.
This is our second May living in this apartment.
But I knew that
dying.
Even before,
yeah.
Like I would see these fluffy things in the air and I'd be like, oh my God, those fluffy things, I think I'm allergic to them. I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I have a cold. I don't. It's just my allergies. My eyes are itchy and my throat hurts and I feel congested. And it's the perfect physical state of being, I think, going into Wuthering Heights. It's just what you want. You don't want to feel good.
No. You want some physical pain, some unpleasantness, some discomfort.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
That's what you should have.
Because Wuthering Heights is not a happy book.
No, I would not say so. We have a lot to get through.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of cut the banter and get right into it.
I'm worried that it's just so much.
It's too much.
It's
too much for any humans to take on. We have taken on a burden that perhaps is overly burdensome. Because this is only episode 1. We only got into the 1970s. We have like 40 more years to go.
Like, we're at the point right now where we have like 2 marathons to run, and we haven't even started the first one.
Yeah.
And we know as soon as there's no relief when this episode is over.
No.
And I'm really committed to this too. I want to do every single Wuthering Heights that's available because I don't want to come back to it.
Yeah, we don't want to revisit it. And I also want to be clear, like, in this episode, we have not watched anything past. So it's not like we've watched everything, but we're confining our discussion to the first 8 or whatever that we watched. We stopped we're stopping to record, and then we will continue on, watch everything else, and record the second episode. So if we say something like, all the adaptations we've seen do such and such, or like this never happens, or this always happens, we're literally only talking about the ones that we. So don't write us in and say like, the one from 1992 did that. How could you forget? We're only talking about the ones that. No one would say that because our fans are great.
By the time you're even writing it, we know.
Yeah, exactly.
We will know by that point. Let's talk about Wuthering Heights.
Okay.
I never read it. You, I'm assuming, had read it.
Yeah,
before.
I've read it before, like multiple times. And I'm interested to know. God, like you're not coming to it with much background, are you? Like, did you know about Wuthering Heights?
Okay, so my experience of Wuthering Heights was in high school. A teacher showed us what I think was the Ralph Fiennes movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember them making us read the book, so I'm not sure what the point was. Maybe it was a sub and we had, like, the teacher was sick.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. All I remember is, like, being in a classroom, being bored, and I think Ralph Fiennes had long hair.
Gotcha.
So I'm assuming it was Wuthering Heights. I think it was Wuthering Heights, but I didn't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
And I think I got it like conflated with other things. Like I think I conflated parts of it with like The Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah.
For big
reasons.
big sad house,
Yeah.
But like I thought the house got destroyed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which doesn't
happen.
Maybe like figuratively or spiritually, whatever. Anyway, yes, let's assume that when we started, I had no experience or expectations for Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
And then we started reading it. And some things became, you know what? No, that's not true. Let me recant that for a second. I did have an expectation because I feel like this is going to be weird. There's a great song called David Duchovny by a singer named Bree Sharp. You know the song.
Uh-huh.
It's wonderful. I'll link to it in the show notes. It's a great song about how great David Duchovny is, and there's one line in the song. I've listened to the song a million times, and there's a line in the song where she refers to him like as Fox Mulder, as an American Heathcliff, brooding and comely.
Mm-hmm.
And that line has been stuck in my head. So, like, if any part of my brain was conjuring what Wuthering Heights was about, it was pretty much based on that.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to like him.
Yeah, you thought he was like Mr. Darcy. Like he was a little bit mean and a little bit prickly on the outside,
maybe
but kind
more
of
like
misunderstood.
Mr. Rochester.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Rochester's terrible.
Yeah, but we still like him.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, like he's tortured, but like we kind of like him.
Mm-hmm.
Like Heathcliff's the worst.
Well, we like him because a person we likes him.
Yeah.
Right?
In Jane Eyre, you mean?
Yes.
Not in this.
Nobody
that we likes Heathcliff.
No, this is the opposite.
Yeah.
And kind of what I expected was that I would like him, but also I feel like I have this general kind of idea that people identify with Kathy and Heathcliff. And there's something very, you know what? Maybe they are not perfect people, but they are passionate about each other. And I see some of my own relationships in that. I'm saying this like hypothetical person saying that. I feel like I've gotten some of that from the culture.
From the culture, yeah.
And then I read the book and I found out that I hate Heathcliff and I also hate Kathy.
Yeah.
And I pretty much only liked two characters. I'm going to throw it. There's two characters I liked in the entire book.
Okay, I can think of two characters that I like.
Before we name them, do you want to do a quick synopsis?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best.
Do you want go?
I'm going to do my best.
Go for it. Because we don't have a back of the book also.
I can't make any promises for how long or how short this summary is going to be.
Please do your best.
I'm going to do my best. Okay. So this book has a cool framing device, and the framing device involves a man named Mr. Lockwood. And Mr. Lockwood has just rented this house, this nice house called Thrushcross Grange, and it comes with a housekeeper named Nellie. But we don't meet her for a minute. We meet Mr. Lockwood because he goes up to see his landlord, a man named Mr. Heathcliff, who lives at a house called Wuthering Heights about 4 miles away. And he chooses to visit him on a terrible, terrible day. There's a terrible snowstorm. And quickly realizes that all is not right in the house of Mr. Heathcliff. He's super mean. He's super standoffish. He's got this old gross man living there and this young man that seems kind of stupid and this girl that he can't quite understand.
Seems to hate everybody.
He seems to hate everybody. That first he thinks she's Heathcliff's wife, and then he's told she's his daughter-in-law, but his son is dead.
He's not told any of these things. He makes like tons of assumptions.
Yeah, like sweeping assumptions. is told he's an idiot, and then realizes that the snow is too deep for him to walk home, and no one will guide him home, no one will help him, and they don't want him to stay. So he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? So he ends up staying the night. He has a weird, slightly paranormal experience that freaks him out.
Kind of like the X-Files?
You might say so.
I want to see how long I can pull on this thread.
That involves a ghostly hand and all kinds of stuff, someone screaming out on the moors.
He hears someone that sounds like Kate Bush
Yeah.
singing about how
We'll talk about that in a minute. We got a ways to go before we get to Kate Bush.
Kate Bush is going to be the reward. If you stick through the entire episode, Kate Bush will be your reward.
I'm trying to get through this as fast as I can. I'm not doing great. This is like chapter 1.
I might take over.
He makes it home the next day and goes to his housekeeper, Nellie, and says, Nellie Dean.
WTF.
And says, this was a very strange experience I had. Can you please enlighten me as to the history of what the fuck is going on in this house? And Nellie's like, in order to give you that information, I'm going to have to take you back like 40 years. I've been with this family for 40 years, and I'm going to tell you a detailed history of this family.
Ellen Dean needs to think about her entire life before she plays.
It's so true, and I'm curious how many people get that reference. And they sit down before the fire, and he basically like forces her to tell this whole story. So that's how the book begins. Nellie Dean is flashing back in time to a time when she herself was very young. She was working for this family, the Earnshaws. They were all living there at Wuthering Heights. There's the 2 kids, Kathy and Hindley. I'm going to get confused on names. The Earnshaw siblings, Mom and Dad Earnshaw. And then one day, Dad Earnshaw comes home from a trip, and he brings with him this dirty little boy and says, I brought you home a new kid to live with us. He didn't have anywhere to go, and I couldn't just leave him, so I brought him home with me. We're going to call him Heathcliff. Dad Earnshaw loves Heathcliff. He favors him. He treats him like his own son. Hindley, brother Earnshaw, is very jealous of this, but Heathcliff forms a very close bond with the daughter, Kathy, and they're always out running on the moors together up to Penistone Crag. Penistone Crag.
We'll come back to that.
There's this place that they love to go called Penistone Crag. No, Penistone Crag. I'm going to get it wrong every single time.
We also agreed before we did the show that we would refer to old Kathy as Catherine and refer to young Catherine as Kathy.
We haven't done it even once.
Nope.
We also had
there's 2 Catherines.
We also had an inside joke as we watched these Wuthering Heightses, which is now the kind of joke where you can't say the right thing the right way because you've said it the wrong way many times. Can you?
Penistone Crag is what's in the book and all of the movies.
Yeah.
We think it's much funnier to say Penistown Crag, who is just a guy everybody knows about.
Craig.
My penis is made of rocks, as you can see.
This is getting out of hand. Okay. It's not Penistown Crag. It's Penistone Crag.
Literally not even important.
It's a bunch of rocks. We're probably not even going to mention it again.
I'm taking this away from you.
We're not going to mention
Sweetie,
it again.
I'm so sorry I'm taking this away from you. I'm taking this away from you.
Good job.
Nope. We're so far into this right now. We need to just bang through this.
Let me just get through their childhood.
No, that's so much more.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Hindley hates Heathcliff. Kathy likes Heathcliff. The dad dies and the mom dies. So it's really just the kids. As they get older, one of the things that happens is that Hindley goes off to school, and he's gone for a really long time. So left at Wuthering Heights is just Kathy and Heathcliff, right?
Yeah, with the old servant Joseph.
Okay. And Joseph, yes, he is one of the people that works there. He's a fucking crazy guy.
Very important character.
Weird, crazy guy. You can't understand a goddamn word he says. One of the other people that they meet are the Linton family, and they are at Thrushcross Grange.
Yes.
And
which is hard to say.
Right. One night, Heathcliff and Kathy go there, and they get attacked by dogs, and she gets bitten, and out comes Edgar Linton, who's this young man who's very handsome, and he's very worried about the Earnshaw girl, and she needs to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
So Heathcliff goes back.
They're all about 12 or 13 at this point, by the way. They're not like adults.
Yeah. So at this point, like, it is very clear, like, Heathcliff loves Kathy, and Kathy has feelings for Heathcliff as well. But Heathcliff is real rough and tumble.
Yes.
Kathy, though, staying with the Lintons for a while, now she's a lady.
Yeah.
She has become a lady. And also, Edgar Linton he favors her.
Yeah.
As time goes on, one of the things that happens is that she forms a relationship with Edgar Linton. They're then, going to get married. Heathcliff doesn't like that, and he pieces out.
Yeah.
He leaves. She gets married to Edgar Linton. Hindley comes back, but he's kind of a fuck up and a drunk. And he comes back with a new woman.
His new wife.
With his wife. They have a kid, and she dies.
Yes, promptly dies.
Later. And now he's got a kid he doesn't care about. Kathy's married to Linton. Heathcliff comes back. He has made his fortune, and he is a new man
In some
at this point.
mysterious way. No one ever knows how
Mhm.
he made all this money, but he is back.
And here are some of the things that happens. One, he basically wrests control of Wuthering Heights from Hindley, who is a drunk and a fuck-up. So now he controls Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
He owns the house, and Hindley just lives there with his son, Hareton.
Or Hareton.
Or Hareton. I'm going to say Hareton.
I'm probably going to say Hareton.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Kathy and Heathcliff, they start seeing each other a lot.
Yeah.
Too much, maybe.
Maybe too much.
And Linton doesn't care for that.
He does not.
And Nellie is caught in the middle of all of this.
Yeah.
She's telling the story, remember?
And Nellie has been there the whole time. She was working at Wuthering Heights. Then she went with Kathy when she got married. She's working at Thrushcross Grange. So she is like Kathy's like maid servant at this
Yeah.
point. So she's very intimately familiar with everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that she can recount it in great detail,
Great
including the
detail.
dialogue 30 years later.
Everything. Heathcliff, you find out pretty quickly, Heathcliff he's against everybody. He's the villain. His goal is to basically take over Wuthering Heights, take over Thrushcross Grange. He hates everyone. Kathy's the only one he loves, and he hates her too.
Pretty much. So
She's the only one he loves, and he fucking hates her.
So he keeps coming around, and he makes himself very interesting to Edgar Linton's sister, Isabella,
Yeah.
who we have not yet mentioned.
So she runs off with Heathcliff.
Yeah.
Kathy gets pregnant, goes crazy, has the baby, and then dies.
Yeah.
Right?
In that order.
Basically in that order.
Yeah.
Heathcliff is at Wuthering Heights. Isabella, his wife, has run off.
Yes.
Not before she also became pregnant.
Yeah. So she's off to London because her brother disowned her when she married Heathcliff,
'cause
which
he's
she
terrible.
did, because he's terrible, which she did basically for spite and regretted it almost
Like,
immediately.
Immediately. So now Isabella's gone. Kathy's dead. Heathcliff is at Wuthering Heights with Hareton and Hindley. And Edgar is at a Thrushcross Grange with his daughter, also named Catherine.
Confusingly.
Maybe from here on out, Kathy is the younger one, Catherine is the older one.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's try.
Well, we'll do our best.
Also, Isabella has given birth to Linton,
Yes.
who she has named because that was her last name.
Yeah. As was the style at the time.
Exactly. She dies. Linton comes back and stays with the Lintons for one night.
Yeah.
So young Kathy gets to meet him. She likes him. He's a sickly kid. Stays for one night, but Heathcliff finds out and says, no, he's my son. He's coming to live with me. And Edgar's like, I can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
So Linton goes to live with Heathcliff.
The kids are about 10, 11 at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over the years, they form a relationship.
Yeah.
Young Kathy and Linton form a relationship. They really like each other.
Well, just
'Cause-
to be clear, he's living across the fields. It's not that far.
Right.
But she doesn't know, Kathy doesn't know that Linton is there for like 4 years. And then they meet by chance. And
Right.
so it was kept secret from her. That
She
her
met him for
cousin-
like one night and then
Exactly.
didn't see him for 4 years.
Exactly.
Heathcliff's whole plan is Edgar Linton is dying. I know he's going to kick the bucket real soon. Everything is going to get left to young Kathy. I am going to make sure that she marries Linton, even though they're cousins. I want to make this happen because then everything that was Edgar's will go to Linton, and Linton is a sickly little kid, and he's going to die soon.
Yeah.
And then I'll take control of everything.
Yeah.
And I will control Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. I'll rent out Thrushcross Grange, and I will have this young Kathy will live with me and be my servant.
Yes. So
That's
he,
his plan.
so he basically needs to force Kathy to marry Linton before Linton kicks the bucket.
Yeah. So he abducts Kathy
Literally
and Nellie,
abducts them.
forces her to marry Linton. Linton is disgusting and awful and then dies, and he gets what he wants.
And Kathy's dad dies.
Mhm.
So she's all alone now in the world, and she's forced to live at Wuthering Heights.
With Joseph, who sucks.
Yeah.
Hareton, who is now old and has basically never received any kind of education or any amount of love.
Yeah.
And is terrible.
And they make fun of him for like not knowing how to read and everything.
Yeah.
And Nellie at some point comes back and lives with them again at Wuthering Heights.
Then we reach the beginning of the book,
Yeah.
where Mr. Lockwood enters. And she's telling him this whole story. And then we get this final couple of chapters, would you say?
Yeah.
Where now Heathcliff has changed because, as we know from the beginning, there is a ghostly Kathy out there on the moors. And he is obsessed. Because one of the other things that has happened is when she dies, he curses her.
Yes.
He says, you don't get to go to heaven. You need to walk the earth so you can haunt me.
Yeah.
Because, as I've said many times, I fucking hate everyone. I love you the most, and I fucking hate you too.
And I also hate myself.
Yes. Oh, he hates everyone. Heathcliff hates everyone. He's fine with Joseph. Joseph seems to be the only
Joseph's
person he's
fine.
kind of fine with.
Loves Joseph.
He nothings Joseph.
Actually, he's pretty nice to Hareton too. Like, he's okay.
Heathcliff?
He's less abusive to him than his own father Hindley was.
Yeah, I guess he's less
Like
abusive.
Hindley nearly murdered him on multiple occasions.
Okay, yes. I wouldn't call any of what Heathcliff demonstrates towards Hareton as anything good.
It's
less bad than the shitty dad.
Yeah.
But like, it's not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, Heathcliff gets obsessed, stops eating. Eventually, he dies.
Sort of realizes that the wind has gone out of his sails in his like sort of appetite for revenge.
Yeah.
Like, he just sort of gives up and dies.
He's been in the revenge business for so long.
Okay.
Now that it's over, he doesn't know what to do with the rest of his life.
Quite literally, and his life
before
ends.
he can become a pirate, he dies.
And perhaps goes off with Kathy, the ghost of Catherine. Maybe we think perhaps.
Yeah, because there's a kid who says, "I saw them holding hands
on the moor, the terrible moor." And then by the end, Kathy and Hareton are friends again, and she's nice to him, and
friends for the first time.
They might get married.
Yeah, because Hareton's actually kind of nice.
He's kind of nice,
and she teaches him how to read, and he's not that bad. And Ellen gets to look at them, and Lockwood gets to look at them and go like, you know what? These kids are going to be okay because the fucking villain that they've had in their lives their entire lives is dead.
Yes. The end. Hey, that was pretty good. We did it. That was about as concise, I think, as you can get.
Wow.
The book of Wuthering Heights.
Couple things. So this was written by Ellis Bell. Published as being written by Ellis Bell. Actually written by Emily Brontë. I've now read 2 Brontë books. Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre and Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights.
How do they compare?
I prefer Jane Eyre quite a bit. I didn't enjoy this. I really didn't like this book.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it. And that I want to be so clear. I am not making a value judgment. I am not saying whether the book is good or not.
Yeah.
I just did not enjoy reading it. I saw one review online that just struck me as like, Wuthering Heights is the most amazing book. Every emotion is contained in this book. I'm like, yeah, every emotion is contained in most books. That's usually how books work. Good books usually have emotions in them. Characters who express things, love, hate, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy reading it.
Yeah.
The only thing that flipped for me that got me to kind of enjoy it and I think this was the reason. I think I was reading it with the parking brake on. It was like driving with a parking brake on.
Mm-hmm.
And the parking brake was, there's something redeemable about Heathcliff and his relationship with Kathy. Because other people respond to it. There must be something redeemable about it. Have you ever driven with the parking brake on?
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And like the car smells like shit. Like it's bad. Once I got the parking brake off and stopped trying to find anything in Heathcliff that I liked, suddenly I realized, oh, this is horror. Yes, I understand it's like gothic horror.
Yeah.
But I mean like modern horror. He is a villain. He is doing terrible things. He's terrorizing these people. There's so many things that would easily fit into any modern like exploitative like horror story.
Yeah.
Once I started reading it that way, I suddenly started having a lot more fun with it, and I kind of enjoyed it by the end.
Yeah.
So I didn't enjoy it because I think I was reading it wrong for me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I mean, I guess what I would say, I kind of wandered in and said to you as we were both kind of reading through Wuthering Heights, like, yeah, every time I read Wuthering Heights, I just forget who everybody is, and everyone's first names are like kind of similar, and some are the same, and they switch last names throughout, and I'm so confused, and I guess I need to like make a family tree, and then by the time you get halfway through, you're like, no, it's very clear who all these people are. It's the flipping back and forth in time, I think, that sometimes confused me.
Yeah.
But like I have a pretty good sense of, now having watched 8 versions of it, like I think I'm pretty solid on the plot. But I didn't remember, like I've read Wuthering Heights more than once, and like I couldn't have told you about the whole passage where like Heathcliff abducts them. Like I did not remember that.
Did you block it?
At all. I think I like blocked it out, or I had kind of skimmed it, or given up reading at some point. I don't know. That was like very intense for me as I was reading. I was like, wait, has this always been here?
Mm-hmm.
Is this always in the book? It's really a lot. Yeah, no, I think like the part that makes it challenging is that I don't find any of the characters particularly likable.
I like Ellen.
Ellen or Nellie.
Nellie,
is
again, multiple names for
multiple
everybody.
names.
Nellie's the best.
She's the best. She's great. She's kind of the storyteller. So you get kind of annoyed or angry that she's so abused. Like Heathcliff strikes her at one point. She does not he threatens to kill her. Remember the part where he puts a knife between her teeth and she just kind of laughs it off and she's like, "Oh, that tastes really bad. Like, can you please not do that?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry." But it's horrifying what she has to go through. And it's I don't know if it's a commentary on social class. Why does she have to stay? What compels her to stay?
Well, she needs to be there so she can tell Lockwood about everything.
But I'm saying, as a character, what has compelled her to stay all of these years? And my thought is that it's because she loves these kids, right? She doesn't want to abandon Hareton and Kathy. She raised Hareton to when he was 5 years old until she was sent away, and she raised Kathy all of her life. She's the only mom that these kids have.
I think that's the best reason we're given for why she wants to stay.
Yeah.
I do think more, though, it's because someone needs to tell Lockwood what happened.
Sure.
And I feel you come up with a character like that. I feel like Emily Brontë was kind of between a rock and a hard place. She's like, I want to come up with an exciting, interesting story for what life was like for these characters and the things they did to each other. But the crazier I make it, the harder it is to believe that someone went throughout and stayed to tell someone else about it.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, there is enough reason that Ellen stays.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is were it not for this likable character who is there from beginning to end, I think it would be almost impossible to read because you don't like anybody.
Yeah.
Right? She's done something really smart, which is make the storyteller somebody that we like. And we want to know what happens to Nellie, if nothing else. If it was just a third person story about these horrible people being horrible to each other.
Flowers in the Attic.
Yeah, exactly. It would be too much. We couldn't handle it. So that's my
I'm glad you agree that Flowers in the Attic is too much and we can't handle it. I also like young Kathy. And the thing I like about young Kathy is that she doesn't have the bullshit that everyone else has. She's pretty much an innocent and then goes through something terrible that makes me empathize with her more, and she comes out not having been ruined by it.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I feel like Linton goes through something terrible and comes out worse for it.
Yeah.
I feel like Heathcliff ruins Linton.
Yeah.
And he wasn't great to begin with.
Yeah, he literally kills him.
But he comes out ruined,
yes.
As a person. And that doesn't happen to Kathy, and that makes me like her, and that makes me empathize with her, and I kind of like Hareton by the end of it too.
Yeah.
So it's Nellie, Kathy, and Hareton. I like them. Again, I go back to if this was a horror movie, there's the final girl, and and Nellie and Kathy are pretty much the final girls of this. They survive the murderer. They survive Jason, at the camp.
Yeah.
And they get their happy little ending.
Yeah.
This just doesn't, this has the little surprise ending with oh, I saw them up on the moors. I won't go over there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And Kathy has the advantage that sort of this marriage with Linton was forced a little too late, because I think Heathcliff would probably have wanted to have a grandchild, to kind of seal the union, but I am sure that marriage was not consummated. Linton was not capable.
No, not nearly
not
capable of it.
Not even a little.
Things that I didn't know. I don't think there's probably a lot of people I'm not telling this for the first time, but I did not know how young Emily Brontë was when she died. I didn't know she died at 30, only a year after this was published. It was published after Jane Eyre, but it was picked up by a publisher before Jane Eyre.
Interesting.
So it's not like Jane Eyre was a big hit and let's find these other Brontë girls, and this was already going to be published, but it was published later.
Yeah.
In 1850, did you know that Charlotte Brontë edited the text for the second edition?
Because Emily was already dead by that point?
Yes. She also wrote this to the publisher, and she said it seems to be as far as correcting punctuation and stuff like that. She also apparently took Joseph's his Yorkshire accent,
his dialect,
and dialed it back a little bit.
Oh my God.
And apparently this is what she said in a letter. She said, "It seems to me advisable to modify the orthography of the old servant Joseph's speeches, for though as it stands it exactly renders the Yorkshire dialect to a Yorkshire ear, yet I am sure Southerns must find it unintelligible, and thus one of the most graphic characters in the book is lost on them." Which I think is great.
It's still pretty unintelligible. She did an okay job. I literally had to look at the footnotes in the Kindle sometimes to understand what he was trying to say.
I had to say it out loud. Every time Joseph talked, I had to say it out loud to myself to figure out what he was saying, which is that's not a criticism.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Joseph ended up being one of the most delightful characters. I hated him, but I was delighted by him.
Yeah.
I feel like we should move on.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. In 1939, the first big version of this was made. It's made as a movie, directed by William Wyler, who also did Mrs. Miniver, The Best Years of Our Lives, Ben-Hur, produced by Samuel Goldwyn, who went on later to say that he directed it. He basically directed it, and William Wyler was just there on set, which I think William Wyler would have disagreed with.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can say anything.
Yeah, it was written by Charles MacArthur, Ben Hecht, and John Huston in an uncredited role. One thing, I almost never bring up the cinematographers, but it was shot by Greg Toland, who did Citizen Kane, The Best Years of Our Lives, Grapes of Wrath. He won the Oscar for this movie. It is a beautiful movie. Like, I actually think it's shot beautifully. I don't know where to go with this.
So, do you want to talk about who's in it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it stars
Laurence Goddamn Olivier
Sir Larry
as Heathcliff.
Yeah.
Merle Oberon as Catherine.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about like the biggest change? What's the biggest thing to talk about?
So this starts sort of a grand tradition of, and I think this is where people are coming from when they're like, it's such a tragic love story. Like, this starts the grand tradition of, this is just a story about Catherine and Heathcliff. It never goes into the second generation. The whole second half of the book basically is not here, except for sort of the ending where Kathy dies.
It skips to the end where they're both dead.
Yeah. And this was something we saw repeated over and over again. And I wonder if it sort of influences this sort of pop culture idea of this is like a tortured love story, right? Because having read the book, to me, it is the story of someone destroying two families and himself. But this is not that, because it doesn't get into how he tries to destroy the lives of all of the children involved who are basically innocent in all of this. Kathy never has a baby. There's no Hareton. There's no Linton. They were in love. Their love could never be. Heathcliff went off and got rich. She married someone else. He came back. They're very tortured. She went mad and then died. He cursed her to be a ghost and then sort of went mad and died himself.
Yep.
The end.
Yep.
And in this one, even like we have him marrying Isabella, but like when Lockwood comes to the house at the beginning, for example, and he says, "Oh, you're Mrs. Heathcliff," she's like, "Yeah, you're right. I sure am." Like there's no Kathy Jr., like no one. Isabella's just like super miserable at the house. So they sort of condense like the two halves of the story into one thing.
It is weird to me because this does start a thing where the Lockwood framing is kept, but the whole second half of the book is gone.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me. Like, I don't understand why you would keep. Why
do you need to keep Lockwood?
If you're willing to throw out half the book, why do you want to keep the framing device? That's my big question I would have for them. Like, just tell the story in chronological order if that's what you want to do. Because also the whole idea that Nellie is telling Lockwood about any of this is gone.
Yeah,
like she's not telling him.
Well, it's not gone, but she's telling him. She's telling him like they're in the house. Like Nellie, he comes to the house and he meets this old lady, and she's like, "Yes, let me tell you the story of this guy that's right over here."
Let me be clear about something. I apologize. I'm going to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm going to get things confused.
It's fine. We saw a lot of black and white, and usually we only see like one or two black and white, so like it does kind of get mixed all together.
You're absolutely right. She does tell him everything, but she basically pulls him aside that night and says, "Let me tell you the whole story."
The whole story.
And then when she's done, Heathcliff dies.
Yeah, it's over. The other thing that I will say is that we have yet to encounter a version, and we have watched versions up through 1978. We have yet to encounter any version that honored this sort of structure of the book where we're sort of going back and forth from Lockwood being told something by Nellie to the present day, back to the flashback, back to the present day, back to the flashback.
But time is passing.
Time is passing in the present. We finally meet back up with the present day, and then there's a conclusion. I am really hoping we see at least one version with that structure because I enjoy it. I think it's a really cool and interesting way to structure the book. Like I think Emily Brontë did it on purpose. Like I think she knew what she was doing. I think she's a good writer. I know that's a hot take.
Calm down.
Right?
It's the hottest of takes.
Again, I'll say that right off the bat. None of these versions that we're going to talk about do that. Actually, like there's definitely flashback, which is like Nellie telling the story, and we see the kids, usually portrayed by the adult Heathcliff, which is kind of terrible. So, but about this version in particular, I mean, I really feel like this was 1939, 38, 39. I really think this is where the idea in the culture came from that Heathcliff is this brooding, anti-hero. You know, this like brooding, attractive guy. He just needs the love of a good woman. If only she could have saved him, because that's how Olivier plays him.
Yes.
He doesn't play him gross and terrible and murderous and awful. He just plays this like real like Romeo and Juliet tortured love story thing, and everyone is just kind of along for the ride. Like it's you know, it's quite the ride.
Can I just throw out my hot take?
Yeah.
And before I do it, I just want to preface this by saying, like, nothing that I say on our little show is going to change the fact that, like, this movie is a classic. It's regarded as a classic. It's on, you know, many best of lists. It's, you know, in the National Library, like stuff like that. Like, this is.
I think it won the Oscar, didn't it?
No, the only Oscar it won was for cinematography.
Gotcha.
I don't think this movie is good. I think it is in fact bad. I think it is I do not like this movie.
Yeah.
I think it is a misfire. I think it's a fine movie with some fine people in it about you know, a love story that ends tragically. It's not Wuthering Heights. None of the characters, to your point, it's not just Heathcliff that doesn't resemble Heathcliff. Nobody resembles anybody.
Yeah.
Catherine certainly doesn't resemble Catherine from the book.
Yeah.
She's there and she's kind of tortured, but she's not the worst. And Catherine in the book is the worst.
She's terrible.
And I think that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that makes her her. That's one of the things that makes her character. So she's not that character. Nellie's there, but she's not really much of anything. It's not Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
It is a different story.
Yeah, I would say.
And I didn't enjoy it. I think Olivier is miscast.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't think he's good in it.
Mhm.
I think it's one of his earlier film roles. He is. I just don't think he had figured out yet how to be a movie star.
Yeah.
He was still playing it as theater.
Yeah.
And from what I read, apparently this was a really shitty production for most people. Like, apparently he and Merle Oberon hated each other and yelled at each other all the time. Apparently he hated William Wyler, even though later, because apparently William Wyler did, this is one of my favorite things. I want to talk about my favorite movie for a second, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
There it is.
But apparently when Nicholas Meyer was directing it, he figured out how to direct a really good performance out of William Shatner. Do you know what his secret was?
Just let Shatner be Shatner?
No. The opposite, actually.
Okay.
Make Shatner do a million takes until he gets tired. And so he's too tired to be Shatner. And then he just acts.
Okay.
That was apparently Wyler's whole thing with Olivier.
Yeah.
He just made him do dozens of takes throughout the movie and basically just got him to the point where he was too tired to be Olivier.
Yeah.
And then he got the performance that he wanted.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If this is Laurence Olivier, but it's one of his first movie roles, it makes a lot of sense that a director would need to handle him that way.
Yeah.
And I still don't think the performance he got out of him was good for what this movie needed.
Yeah.
I think his performance is fine. I wouldn't call what his performance was as bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It just is.
It's just miscast.
It's just
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I'm really looking forward because we're going to do Rebecca at some point, and I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to
Soon.
seeing him in that because I think that's perfect casting.
Sure.
He's going to be suave and attractive but mysterious but handsome. Like that's Olivier, not Heathcliff. Heathcliff is awful.
Yeah.
Like unredeemable.
Which isn't to say he's not compelling.
Yeah.
He's very compelling.
Yeah.
Despite being awful. And Olivier might have been able to do that, but I just don't think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel weird. I have no beef with Hindley. And I have no beef with Isabella.
Yeah.
Hindley was Hugh Williams and Isabella was Geraldine Fitzgerald. Also, I have no real beef with Edgar, who's David Niven.
Oh, Geraldine Fitzgerald is the grandma from Arthur, we found out.
Yeah,
which is amazing. Once we sort of saw it, it was great.
I have no beef with any of them. I actually found their performances compelling. I found them empathetic. I liked them. I liked them in their roles. I didn't care for Olivier. And I thought Merle Oberon was fine. She was nothing.
Yeah.
Really nothing.
I think we should move on.
Yeah.
We watched on the YouTube from 1950. Oh my God.
Yeah, we skipped forward 11 years now.
11 years now. And we missed this one in our research. So we actually watched this one last after everything else because we it suddenly popped up on YouTube and we were like, wait, is there one we haven't seen? There is one we haven't seen. It stars Charlton Heston.
Well, that's the bad news.
Yeah.
The good news. Now, I want to go back.
The good news is it's very short.
Well, there's that. Before we even started watching this one, before we watched any of them, and I said, you know what would be amazing? You know who I'd love to see in any of these, especially the older ones? Una O'Connor.
You did say that.
Because I fucking love Una O'Connor. She showed up many times. She was in Bride of Frankenstein.
Mhm.
She's in The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yep.
She showed up a couple of other times on this
She was
show.
in Christmas in Connecticut.
Yes, she was. And I found out that she was like, I can't remember what list she was on. I'll link to it in the show notes. She's on the list of like the greatest Irish actors of all time.
That's
and
right.
It's crazy the people she beat out.
She was like number 4 or something.
I fucking love Una O'Connor. I think she's goddamn great. When I found out that this was the thing, I said, I got bad news and I got good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is that Charlton Heston is Heathcliff. The good news is that Una O'Connor is Nellie,
Yeah.
which is perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect. And I was so excited. And
the bad news is pretty much everything else.
Yeah, it's an hour long, brought to you by Westinghouse.
It's the same series, isn't it, that we saw Tony Soprano's mom in?
Yes, the Nancy Marchand Little Women.
Yeah.
So this is an episode of Studio One, which ran in the late 40s to early 50s. It was one of these shows where like the studios basically were leveraging their like studio talent and said, "You've got to. I know you're in movies, but you got to go do a TV. Go do a TV play.
Yeah.
We're gonna take the script. We're gonna condense one of the scripts from our movies that we own, and you're gonna do it really quick on TV."
Yeah.
And they cranked these things out, and so it is like, I mean,
It's a set.
shot for $10 basically.
Yeah.
$10 in modern money.
Well, it's amazing. Like, so a couple things. One, the accents are nothing. Like, it was shot in a soundstage in California, right? So they just like gathered up whoever they could
Maybe
find, or
New
New
York?
York potentially.
I'm not positive.
It doesn't matter. The issue that I'm about to take beef with is that the accents are non-existent.
Una O'Connor is doing an accent,
She's doing her own.
and the guy playing Joseph was like a delightful fop, which is not Joseph in any other
Joseph
version.
was so strange. This was the weirdest Joseph. I think they like misunderstood what Joseph was supposed to
Or
be.
they said, we have 1 hour, we
Yeah.
don't care.
We're not going to make him old. He was like such a dandy. He's like the father's valet. It was ridiculous. The kids were obviously like fully American. Like the accents were so American.
When you say the kids too, you mean like the younger, in the flashbacks,
I'm so
there's
sorry.
the younger version
Yes.
of Catherine Hindley. Because of course this
Of
does
course.
the thing where it ends the same way the movie ends.
Yeah.
There's no younger generation.
Yeah, of course it does not go to the second generation.
Yeah.
My only note,
One note.
I have 2 notes.
Okay.
One is I wrote down that this is probably a little mean that the actress playing Catherine is a poor man's Liz Taylor, because she just has that look to her.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sure Mary Sinclair would have thought it would very mean for you to say like you're just a poor man's Liz Taylor.
I'm sure like the casting was like, get me a Liz Taylor type. But
She's very pretty.
She's very pretty. The only other note I wrote down was the only thing worse than kissing is Charlton Heston kissing.
What about? You've got a hate on for Charlton Heston.
I have a hate on for Charlton Heston, and I have a hate on for kissing. So the two of them together, with his like, he's gross. We've now seen, as you pointed out, every era of Charlton Heston for this podcast.
This is like this is one of the first credits he ever had.
Yeah.
This is young, handsome Charlton Heston. We watched
handsome is debatable.
He is handsome. Objectively, he's handsome. He's so angular. Angles make handsome.
I will admit he's very tall.
Tall, angular, handsome. Charlton Heston, handsome. We watched 10 Commandments. That's Charlton Heston in his prime.
Yeah.
Then we watched Charlton Heston in Airport 75, which was like late model Charlton Heston in a girdle, that kind of Charlton Heston. So we've watched
bad teeth.
We've watched many different versions of Charlton Heston.
And we watched real old Charlton Heston because he was in that Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. So he's in this. I'm going to go on. He's very handsome, very tall, very handsome, very angular, not trying to do any kind of accent other than I'm Charlton Heston.
I thought you were going to say not trying to do any kind of acting, which I would agree with.
No, I think Charlton Heston acts so hard.
Yeah, he was acting.
Anytime Charlton Heston is acting, he is acting. He is saying the lines and looking at the actors, and he is chewing the scenery. Like, Charlton Heston never just shows up. Charlton Heston is Charlton Heston.
Yeah. Can I mention my very favorite part of this entire TV show?
Of course.
So they're all in Kathy's bedroom, and she's doing her whole thing where she's all crazy. I'm gonna die. It's terrible. I'm having a freak out. And Heathcliff like flings open the door and storms in. But they did not think to check the camera angles on
when Nellie's leaving.
She's
She's leaving the room.
Yeah.
And she opens the door wide.
They did not think to check the camera angles to see who was sitting behind the set. So they open the door and like it's not just like, oh, it's a flash out of the corner of your eye. It's like for a full couple seconds. There's just a guy in modern dress just sitting on a folding chair back behind the set.
I have some notes about this
Okay,
one.
go ahead.
At the beginning, I liked it because it had an energy. It was real. They were getting through it, and I wrote down clarity above everything. Every character says everything. Every line of dialogue is exposition.
Yeah.
Because they don't have time for you to learn things.
Yes.
You've got to be told things because
Yeah.
we only have an hour to get through this.
I know. When we sat down to it, I was like, how are they going to get through Wuthering Heights in an hour? And they did. By God, they did it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of liked it at first.
Yeah.
But then what ended up happening was we were moving through the story so quickly that I wasn't forming any emotional attachments to any of the characters. So by the time we were nearing the end of the hour, I just wanted it to be over. It was more boring than something longer because I didn't give a shit about anybody.
Yeah.
Which wasn't really the point of these things. The point of these things was to, get eyeballs on the set so that Westinghouse could sell you their new black and white set that could be upgraded to color with an adapter converter.
When color comes to your neighborhood.
Exactly. But yeah, all the dialogue is super clear. Hindley is ridiculous. Every line Hindley has is exposition. That's all it is well, you're this person and he's going over here to meet this person. And he's not that much of a drunk, but about halfway through. And he's so arch. Do you remember how arch Hindley was in this?
Yeah.
He was a villain.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and this is what we talked about with the book, Hindley is not the villain of Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff is the villain.
Yeah.
So that was an interpretation.
It was a choice that they made.
It's not the book, but I don't even think, I would imagine none of these people read the book. I'm assuming that they all had seen the Olivier version, or at least aware of the Olivier version.
Or someone had made a 2-page treatment, as I often say, like some script assistant.
They did make one change that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
That this is the only one where I've seen it, which is Lockwood stays in the room.
Yeah.
He hears a knocking at the window. He opens it. There's Kathy saying, "I'm so cold, let me in. I'm Catherine Linton, blah, blah, blah." And he screams. Heathcliff runs in and goes, "Why are you screaming for?" And he goes, "She said her name was Catherine Linton." And he goes, "What?" And he leans out the window and goes, Kathy, come in. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much in every version.
Yeah.
In this one, though, they threw in something where Heathcliff says to him, this is the first time we've met Charlton Heston in this show.
Yeah.
And he says to him, "What were you doing in here? Wait, why is the window closed? This window's never supposed to be closed because that's how she gets in."
Oh, God.
I'm paraphrasing. This is the only one where they're doing like everyone at a Seder waiting for Elijah, leaving the door open. Like, apparently Heathcliff, he knows this is the window that Kathy is going to go through, so he always leaves it open so that her ghost can come through.
On the off chance that she's going to show up that night.
I'm just saying that is a really major choice that's kind of lost in this one version.
It's very random.
We never see it again.
Oh my
but
God.
It was the only thing I thought was like kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, can I skip to the end?
Of course you may. Please skip to the end.
Heathcliff doesn't die in this one. Heathcliff just goes up to Penistone Crag.
You almost did
Shut up. He goes up to Penistone Crag and he's just kind of sad. And then it's the end. That's it. He just cries to the heavens, "No!" And then it's over. So it doesn't even kill Heathcliff, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. That's it.
That's it.
It exists. That's the best thing I can say about it.
That's right.
And Una O'Connor's in it.
She's great.
I love her so much. All right, skipping ahead. So 8 years later, we get another one of these shows brought to you by a company. DuPont Show of the Month. DuPont, better living through chemistry. And we get goddamn movie star Richard Burton, who I didn't realize, I knew he was Welsh. Like, I think I knew that.
He's so Welsh in this. Well, it's more clear that he's Welsh because, like, no one else is Welsh.
Yeah.
So why is Heathcliff Welsh?
I never realized how he sounds exactly like Anthony Hopkins.
Well, they're both Welsh.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
They're from the same town, aren't they?
No. They're both from Wales. I can tell you that for sure.
I thought Wales was a town.
Wales is a country.
I know it's not a town. I know it's a country.
Okay.
I want to talk about Catherine, though.
Okay.
Because Richard Burton is... He's doing fine. He's doing okay work. I would say these just kind of get better. I like this one more than the previous two.
Yeah. So I want to be clear. When we watched this, the only one we had to compare it to was the 1939 version.
Yeah.
So like we were already like, yeah, this is great. This is better. the accents are better,
It's-
except Burton is Welsh for some reason, and it seems slightly better.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really responded to, I didn't mention this when we were talking about the Olivier version, but one of the things I didn't like in it is something I brought up in the show before. I don't like when a score is telling me to feel a certain way that the story is not making me feel.
Yeah, I know that you feel that way.
And the score in the original is intense, swelling, romantic score, and it just did nothing for me.
Mhm.
Because this is like a TV version, it can't have that, which I actually think serves the story a lot better.
Yeah,
And I think I think that's that's the main reason I liked this version more.
yeah.
And I liked Richard Burton better as Heathcliff.
Mhm.
I didn't love him, but I liked him better. But I want to talk about Catherine Earnshaw, played by Rosemary Harris,
Yeah,
which for me, I know she has a long and storied career, but for me, she's Aunt May
Of course
from the
she
Tobey
is.
Maguire Spider-Man movies.
Of course she is.
And it's just one of those things. She looks exactly the same. She's beautiful then. She's beautiful in the Spider-Man movies. Her hair went gray. That's basically what happened. She's great in this. Also, Denham Elliott is Edgar Linton.
I did enjoy that.
Like there's good people in this who are doing good work.
Kathy is super crazy in this one though. She's got like
Yes.
really crazy eyes. I wrote down like crazy Kathy because she is a miss. She's not well.
Which is good.
Yeah.
That's good. She's supposed to be crazy. It's not much better, but it's better.
Yeah.
I remember that her at the window was a lot creepier than the original. Because isn't this the one where like there's actually a hand?
There was a hand.
Because in the original, in the Olivier one, there's no hand
Yeah.
like grasping Lockwood. In this one though, we get that, and it's definitely creepier.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that.
Yeah. It was a pretty direct remake. Like they added some dialogue, I thought, but like sort of shot for shot, it was a pretty direct remake of the 1939 like theatrical movie.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was their whole thing.
Yeah.
That was it. It just kind of shocked me every time there was something that wasn't in the original, because the thing like, oh, they actually sat down and wrote something.
Yeah, like the script was actually better. Like the script got into more stuff. I mean, they definitely still didn't do the second generation.
Yeah.
Any of the kids. Like that was not there at all.
For what it was, a 1958 TV version, like definitely better than the Heston version. That one was troubled.
Yeah.
That one had a lot of problems. And yes, okay, objectively, it's not as good, quote unquote, as the Olivier version, which was a real movie, with a real budget and real time and real costumes and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But it was, we found it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And at this point, I had read the book, which I did not find enjoyable the entire time. And I sat through the Olivier one, which I didn't find enjoyable. I was just happy to enjoy something.
Yeah.
With these terrible characters.
Yeah.
Nellie was okay in this one. She's not Una O'Connor, but she was pretty good in this one.
Who could be Una
Yeah.
O'Connor?
She was okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. How was that acting?
That was good acting.
Was that good acting?
Yeah. Yeah. Do I sound different
So full disclosure.
than I did 5 seconds ago?
5 seconds ago, we cut because everything you just heard was yesterday, and now it's a new day.
We usually don't do this.
No.
But my allergies are shockingly, I didn't think they could get worse. They are worse. And I feel like I sound totally different.
Yeah, but you
So-
totally tapped out after that last bit.
Again, like poor decision making in retrospect. I tapped out because I wasn't feeling well because my allergies were so bad. Again, they're worse today. So I'm going to do my best. I think I sound a little bit nasal. And we just wanted to explain why I might sound slightly different than I did 5 seconds ago. It'll be interesting if I hear this and I don't sound different at all because I sound totally different to my own ears.
1967.
Woohoo.
Okay, so to track them, movie that like, okay, but like I didn't like it.
A classic, but we didn't care for it.
Yeah, then there was like 2 TV versions that kind of were increasing in quality. The last one was the one we liked the most of what we watched.
So far.
Then we hit 1967 and we get a TV miniseries from British television. And this one, our favorite so far.
So far.
Absolutely our favorite so far. Directed by Peter Sasti, written by Hugh Leonard, which is a name that has come up on the show, who did a bunch of like, BBC adaptations in the 70s and stuff. Okay. This has some things going for it that are, I think, pretty good.
Yeah.
One, it actually does the whole story.
The whole story. This is the first one we've seen 30 years on.
We actually get like little Kathy and Linton. We get that.
We get it.
And Harriton. We get the whole story. There is a caveat to that. There's an asterisk. The asterisk is it's all in real time, So Lockwood shows up, but not until the final episode.
Right,
And
right.
it's like 4
It
episodes.
just starts at the beginning, where this is also the first one that we see Nellie as a child, right? Because her whole thing is she's the same age as the Earnshaw children, or maybe slightly older. Like Heathcliff is kind of given into her charge, like to take care, but they're the same generation, at least. Like she's not an adult when they're children. So we do see Nellie as a child here at the beginning, which is the first time we see that, and I think one of the few times so far that we've seen that. This version's also in black and white. We've yet to see one in color, by the way, which I just only note because it's 1967 and you wouldn't necessarily expect it to be in black and white. But it was
British television
BBC
in the
TV.
60s. That's black and white.
I'm actually impressed that this is extant. Like because there's lots of British miniseries from the 60s and 70s, particularly. Like I feel like the 80s they started hanging on to them a little bit better, but like I feel like there wasn't a British Little Women like from the 70s that you just can't get. Like there's a bunch of things that like we know existed at one time that no one bothered to retain. So it's cool that they kept this and we were able to get it.
And it's very cool because it's very good.
It's very good.
Can I talk about the Ian McShane of it all?
Of course you can.
This stars Ian McShane as Heathcliff, which is notable, I think, for several reasons. One, so far, this is our first one where not a movie star.
Yeah.
Larry Olivier, Charlton Heston,
Richard Burton.
Like these are movie stars. Ian McShane, he is my personal favorite of those 4 actors. I think he's goddamn amazing.
Yeah.
But he is a TV star.
Yeah.
Ian McShane is TV star Ian McShane.
Yeah.
He of Lovejoy and a little show called Deadwood, which is goddamn amazing.
Yeah.
And American Gods. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
So that's one notable thing. It's Ian McShane. Notable thing number 2, he's a fucking baby in this. Yeah. He's like 25
really
years
young.
old. And he starts the show off very young because he's playing young. And I remember watching it going like, I don't even recognize Ian McShane.
Yeah.
I don't even recognize. I recognize him. I can tell that it's him, but it's not the Ian McShane that I know. And then as the character gets older and he turns into a fucking shithead, then I saw the Ian McShane that I know and love.
He had one line at one point that you were like, there he is. And I don't remember what the line was. I told you to write it down.
I'm looking through my note. Let me see.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I don't actually have it. I just have. Here's a note. His acting is an A+. His mustache is a D- at best.
He did have a bad mustache at one point. I mean, I think the benefit, sort of to your point of casting someone that was a unknown or presumably a relative unknown or perhaps a total unknown, I don't know, at that time gives you a lot of license with Heathcliff's character and ironically makes it easier to stick closer to the book. And we've seen this before in other adaptations where it's like, oh, this person, it doesn't matter that this person comes off as glamorous or handsome or a big movie star. Like Larry Olivier has, thoughts and feelings about his image. But like Ian McShane, age 25, I don't think cares whether we like him or not or find him a likable character. And this was the first Heathcliff that we saw like starting a grand tradition of, again, as I say, hewing closer to the book. Because this Heathcliff was gross and mean and awful and everything that Heathcliff is supposed to be.
But because they leaned into it, he was the most compelling Heathcliff we've gotten so far.
That's right.
Because he is a villain. And I like that. They weren't trying to make him tortured and romantic. Like, it wasn't any of that kind of stuff. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he's my favorite so far.
Yeah. So this version, as you mentioned before, there's no framing device. Lockwood does come into it, but later. But they basically just tell the story chronologically from beginning to end, which, again, was a disappointment to me. I'm still looking out for the version that does it the way that I want it.
But at least we get everything.
Yeah.
Can I go back for a second?
Yeah.
Because there was something the show did that I thought was really cinematic. That is something that is free. You can do it for free. It doesn't cost any money to do something like this, and which is good because they had no money, clearly, to make this.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the passage of time for a second, because we get them all as kids.
Yeah.
And there is a scene, and I'm going to try to describe it, but I actually think it's worth seeking out to see this. If you're a fan of Wuthering Heights and you haven't seen this one, do yourself a favor and find it. We had to buy the DVD.
So you can't find it.
This is one of the only episodes where I'm like buying physical DVDs because there's no other way to watch it. Because as I said before, I don't want to fucking do Wuthering Heights again.
Yeah.
I want to do everything.
It's a comprehensive episode.
So there's a scene where the kids are kids, and what we get is we get this shot of them running down a hill, and basically Hindley and Catherine are running down being shitty to Heathcliff. And he's running behind them going like, please, I can't keep up. I can't keep up. And they're running down the hill. and then we cut to a wide shot of them running down the hill, and they basically run down and down and down and down, and then they go basically into a little valley.
Like behind the hill.
Behind another hill that's in the foreground,
Yeah.
where the camera is. And then the camera pulls back after they've disappeared, and suddenly horses ride up this new hill, this foreground hill with riders on them that are clearly older. And we get our new versions of the characters. We get our older versions of the characters.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool way to transition in one shot. That's super cinematic. It's really smart. It's
But they didn't have to cut, as you say, it's free. Like you just
Totally
keep the
free.
camera on, hide the adults behind the hill, and have them ride out on cue.
And
Yeah.
that's the kind of shit that makes me pay attention.
Yeah.
That was the moment that made me pay attention in the show. And then Ian McShane shows up at that point, and then I was really paying attention.
It's smart.
Deadwood's really good. I want to be clear.
It's smart filmmaking
Yeah.
done by someone with a point of view who is interested in telling a story.
Yeah.
I would argue. Yeah, and again, like they don't shy away from the darker parts of the book, and I think part of it lies in the fact, as I say, that they do the whole plot with the kids, because part of the most upsetting thing about the book, or at least the second half of the book, is how terribly everyone treats all of these children. Like, or I guess mostly Heathcliff, but Hindley too. Like there's the scene where like Hindley is like drunk and like going after Hareton and like basically trying to kill him, and Nellie and the other servants are going like run away, we can't protect you. And I turned to you and I was like, you know what upsets me? Child abuse.
Yeah.
But it was very graphic. Like it was disturbing, and the abduction scene too was really disturbing when Heathcliff locks young Kathy and Nellie away and won't let them get out. I don't think this was the one that he struck Kathy in a really unpleasant way. I think that was a later version.
I don't know. I think that did happen in this one.
There was one where he like hits her in the mouth and she's just like screaming and screaming, and it's awful.
I think that's 78.
It was, because that was in color. That was the blonde Kathy. That was in color. So it's not
Kathy's
this one.
blonde too.
Yes, but it's in black and white.
Well, hang on. Can I talk about Kathy for a second?
Yes, of course you can.
So there's a bunch of things I need to talk about now, because you're talking about the young versions.
Yes.
And that's good because they do something really interesting.
Yes, this was the only one that did this, I think, and it was really smart.
And well, it's smart, and I'm totally 50-50 on it for weird reasons. Because 50% of me really likes it, and 50% of me thinks it was the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Because they did such a good job. Angela Scalar is the actor that plays Catherine Earnshaw. She is also the actor who plays Kathy Linton.
She plays her own daughter.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Again, free. It's cheaper than hiring two people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very theatrical. It contributes to sort of some of the community theater feel of
Yes.
Of this piece.
And like half of me fucking loves that. That's great. That's great and interesting. And it's just like that. It's just like the showing the passage of time by showing the kids going down the hill and the adults going up.
Yes.
That is it's just a cool thing that makes me kind of sit forward a little bit and pay attention. Here's my problem with it.
Yeah.
They did such a good job showing Catherine for the manipulative piece of shit that she can be.
Yeah.
I really believed it. This was the first Catherine we saw that was really manipulative and really shitty.
Yeah. Her acting was excellent. Like she was a
Right?
very, very well cast, very good Catherine.
The problem is, because she did such a good job playing someone that I didn't like,
Yeah.
it kind of prevented me from forming a lot of empathy for Kathy.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think that's more of a me problem.
No, I think that's really fair. Like it's like the same person with the same face and just a blonde wig on. So like playing a character with the same name. So like she's got to work pretty hard to make herself likable, I think. And I'm not sure she was like, she did her best, but I'm not sure that was a barrier she was able to overcome.
I think you're kind of hitting on it, because I think that is the problem. The problem is she wasn't as good at playing Kathy as she was at playing Catherine.
Yeah.
And if she was as good, I wouldn't have had a problem with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think she rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fault the production for an interesting choice. Like, I don't want to be the one to say, like, you made an interesting choice, but I'm taking points off. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of shitty. It's a really good choice.
But I think sort of, again, to your point, like when it comes to casting, like it is a really interesting choice to have the same actress play the mother and the daughter. And I think it's great. And, you know, it contributes to our understanding of why Heathcliff detests her so much, because she looks just like her mother, who, you know, is dead.
Yeah.
But as far as casting goes, I feel like you're casting for something different with young Kathy than Catherine because their characters are so different.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it when we get to the 1978 version because we spend a lot of time with young Kathy in that version. And I thought the actress who played her was really good, but certainly very different from Catherine. Like they sort of went to great pains to make it clear that this is a different character. This isn't the same person. Her personality is completely different, and that's a little bit hard to do when you've got the same actor.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how much else I have to say about this one. This one is really good, really creepy. They do a really good job with Heathcliff and Catherine being united against Edgar.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed because they're both kind of shitty.
Yeah. This was one of the ones where they did the famous line like, "Oh, haunt me always." They did it really quietly.
He delivers it perfectly.
Yeah.
It's everyone else was like screaming to the rafters.
Yeah.
You know, he was the only one who did a quiet version of the curse.
Yeah.
And it's so effective.
It worked pretty well, I thought. It didn't feel like he was trying to do it just to do something different. It felt like, it was sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick thing before we move away from this very good version that was very surprising. Hareton Earnshaw is played by an actor named Keith Buckley. I'm just saying that and I'm sticking a pin in it. That's all I'm doing right now. Let's move on to 1970.
Yeah.
This was... Do you want to start with this one?
I wanna set something up.
Okay.
When we began watching these versions, Jeremy, before we'd watched any version, Jeremy said to me, I just want one that's like the Hammer horror version. And I was like, babe, I don't know that you're going to get that. Like,
Can I be clear about what I meant by that?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted something that leaned into being scary.
Yeah.
And lascivious.
Yes.
And creepy.
Yeah.
I wanted one that was...
You want blood and guts and veins in your teeth.
I wanted something exploitative.
Yes.
Because I think the book is kind of exploitative.
Yeah.
It's horror. I wanted Hammer horror. I wanted that version of it.
You wanted boobs and blood and ghosts.
Because there's something that's been so revelatory. Almost every time we've done something where there's a Hammer version, when we did Dracula and when we did The Hound of the Baskervilles, to go from these very kind of old-fashioned versions, then suddenly to cut to like Technicolor, bloody, sexy, like just interested in being entertaining.
Yeah.
And not interested in being taken seriously.
Yeah.
It was always so lovely. I wanted it with this.
Yeah.
And I knew that Hammer never made a version of Wuthering Heights.
Yes. So now to set this up, it is now 1970. We have officially entered the 70s. We have hit our first color version. And the first scene of the movie starts. And we go, this is different because there's certainly no framing device here. Lockwood does not appear in this one. They are just telling the dang story. They are just doing the dang thing. And because
it starts with Catherine's funeral.
It starts with Catherine's funeral.
Well, it starts with a funeral.
It starts with a funeral. We don't know whose funeral it is.
Mm-hmm.
We see a funeral going on. We see a tall man on a horse dressed in black up on a hill separate from the mourners.
We see a blonde lady.
A blonde lady kneeling at the grave, like strewing flowers on the grave. And she starts to stand up and I say, that's a lot of boobs for a funeral. Mm-hmm. And that set the tone. That set the tone for the movie. A lot of boobs for a funeral, I think, is the tagline of this version of Wuthering Heights.
So this was 1970s Wuthering Heights, made by American International Pictures, who's directed by Robert Fust, written by Patrick Tilley, starring Timothy Dalton.
Yes.
As Heathcliff.
Yes.
Which... I don't even have to see it to know that that's good casting.
Yeah, it's great.
Like that. Let me rephrase that. That's casting that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a guarantee to be good, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some other good people in this movie that I think are worth mentioning really quickly. Obviously, like no one plays, just so everyone knows, no one plays young Kathy, no one plays Linton, no one plays Hareton because
they all die.
None of them exist. Lockwood never appears in the movie, completely gone, which honestly I think is okay. I mentioned stick a pin in Keith Buckley before, who played Hareton in the 1967 version.
Yeah.
He plays technically a character named Hareton in this version.
You tried to explain this to me at a point that I was like not receptive to understanding what the hell you were talking about. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? He's a child. How could he play? Because he's supposed to be a child. And you were like, oh my God, this is not a complicated concept.
Okay. The filmmakers cast the same actor as one of Hindley's like guys that he hangs out with and bros around with.
Yeah.
It's just the same actor who played Harriton in the 67 version, not 3 years earlier. And they, I think, gave him the name of Harriton, even though at no point in the movies he ever referred to that way.
Yeah.
But I think it was just a cute little thing they did. That's it. It was
That's
just a
it.
cute little thing that the filmmakers did.
Yeah.
I said stick a pin in Keith Buckley. We can now remove that pin.
Remove the pin.
And we don't have to talk about
All
it
right.
anymore.
So, a couple of interesting things about this version. First of all, what is the name of the actress who plays Nellie? Because I recognized her, and I think you will too.
Judy Cornwell.
Judy Cornwell. We were watching this, and I was like, something about her that face. That face. Where have I seen that face?
This is not. Can you remind everyone of the other time that this very specifically happened to you?
Oh, yeah, because it was Patricia Rutledge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, because she was in an Emma, I think. Or, no, Sense and Sensibility, which is really funny because I was like, that face. Where have I seen that face? And you're, of course, on IMDb or Wikipedia or whatever, like, scrolling through her credits, and you go, I think was she in Keeping Up Appearances? And I was like, oh my God, that's Daisy. That's Hyacinth Bouquet's sister, Daisy. She's a lot slimmer in this. That's why I didn't recognize her.
Because this is like 20 years earlier,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. But her face is exactly the same, and her facial expressions are exactly the same. She is like one of my favorite characters in Keeping Up Appearances. She and the character Onslow, her husband, are so funny.
And to be clear, it's her boobs at the beginning of the movie.
It's her boobs, yeah, but we didn't know
funeral.
that at the time. So, A of all, inspired casting there. Second piece of that face, where have I seen that face? We're watching like old Joseph like stalk across the farmyard, and I paused.
This is an actor named Aubrey Woods.
I put my hand on your knee and I said, Joseph is the fucking Candyman.
I was like,
he's the Candyman from Willy Wonka. I recognized his voice. I heard I heard the line, "You were born to be a wanderer," and I went, "Wait a second."
What if he was saying, "Who can take a sunrise?
Sprinkle it with dew, etc., wearing a bow tie. I made I made at one point a gif, like not a gif, like a little meme of like what I think I look like wearing a bow tie versus what I actually look like wearing a bow tie. And like what I think I look like was like this picture of this like very attractive, cute, short-haired woman like looking great in a bow tie.
Which you are.
Well, but the what I actually looked like was a picture of the Candyman from Willy Wonka.
I think you might have been wearing a vest or
Like
something
wearing
like
a
that
vest,
did it. Yeah.
Yeah, just the creepiest face in the world. So Joseph is the fucking Candyman, which just brought me no end of joy.
Not Tony Todd.
Not Tony Todd in the movie Candyman.
Different Candyman.
So that, just some amazing casting. Also, Timothy Dalton's very tall. He's extremely tall.
Very tall and like a baby.
Yeah.
Like just like Ian McShane, this is the earliest thing I've ever seen Timothy Dalton in, and he's a goddamn child.
Yeah.
He's an incredibly tall child. He's also kind of Dracula in this.
Oh, he's motherfucking Dracula.
Like this is the thing I wanted. Just to be clear, this isn't Hammer.
Yeah.
This is basically the Hammer version that I wanted.
Yeah.
It is sexy and gross, and it is not interested in being anything other than entertaining.
Yeah. Well, they introduce a whole new subplot, which is this sort of potential incest.
Oh, this is the best
plotline. Okay, can I describe it? Would you
Sure.
mind if I describe it? And you can jump in if you feel I'm leaving anything out. So at the beginning, or the beginning of the flashback, Earnshaw brings home this boy, and his wife starts really grilling him about where he got this boy. Why this boy? Why no other boy? What were you thinking? And she basically is like, I know what you do when you go on those trips. She all but says, this is your kid, isn't it? Like,
and like, to be clear, this is not subtext.
yeah, no, it's text.
It's text.
Like she literally says, like, you've been messing around out there, like some words to that effect. Like,
Yeah.
It is very clear that canonically in this we are to, and he doesn't really deny it. Like, we are to believe Heathcliff is Earnshaw's natural son, which makes sense in the context of the book. Like, it's not ever like explicit in the book, but like I think a really good argument could be made textually just looking at the book.
Yeah.
That he had a mistress in Liverpool. He went to see her occasionally. He knew she had a child. He showed up and it turned out she was dead, and it brought the child home with him. I think you could make that argument if you were trying to like tack on some off-camera plot, I guess.
And I'm really interested to see if this ever shows up in any other version that we watch.
Yeah.
I kind of suspect it won't.
Yeah.
And I almost don't want it to, because I really enjoyed this one and I want this to be the only one that did it.
Yeah.
But then it gets more fucked up later.
Right. So Heathcliff and Kathy, of course, being in love, should they ever consummate their relationship, they are brother and sister. They're
Right.
half brother and half sister.
Which is fine because in the book, they never consummate their relationship.
correct.
As far as Nellie knows.
Yes.
So as far as the audience knows, they never do. And they never do in any of the versions we've ever watched.
In this one, they do.
Yep.
Very explicitly, they do.
While she's married to Edgar.
While she's married to Edgar. And one of the things I said to you, and you thought this might be taking it a bridge too far, but I said, do you feel like there's and this was when they were like tortured, like before they had consummated their love. I said, do you feel like there's an implication that Heathcliff knows he's Earnshaw's son, like Earnshaw has told him, but told him to keep it secret, and that's why he's holding himself back, like he's really tortured because he loves her, but he knows he's her brother? And you were like, I think that's taking the interpretation too far, but like I think you could make an argument for it in this version, just kind of watching Timothy Dalton's performance.
I did not get that.
Yes.
And I'm sure Timothy Dalton, the actor, understood that was the subtext.
Sure.
But I don't know that he was playing the character that way.
So then I went, oh my God, this is now Flowers in the Attic, right? Because they're brother and sister, they're boning. So wait, now if she gets knocked up by Heathcliff, because the implication was absolutely that the baby is Heathcliff's, and that's Kathy, and Kathy marries Linton, who is definitely Heathcliff's son by Isabella, then the two of them have an incestuous relationship. But there was no Linton in this one.
There's no and there's also
no adult
only
Kathy.
Briefly little Kathy, because Catherine dies in childbirth.
Yeah.
And so does Kathy.
And so does Kathy. Yeah, the baby just dies.
Can I do a quick sidebar and talk about that scene for a second?
Can I just do one other thing about how they dispose of the kids?
I'm going to hold on to this.
Okay, because there is a Hareton, because Hindley brings home his wife. She dies in childbirth. There is a baby for a while, and then at one point...
She doesn't die in childbirth. She dies later.
She dies later, because this is the one where they run down going like, she's dead.
There's this servant we've never seen who's running down to the river where like Nellie is cleaning stuff in the river, and she just goes like, the baby's here, the doctor says the missus is gonna die.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And Nellie's like, wait, what? She's like, you gotta come back to the house. They're like, oh, okay. So at one point when Heathcliff comes back home and is like in the process of taking the property away from Hindley, he says to Hindley like, hey, didn't you have a kid? And Hindley's like, yeah, he died. And Heathcliff's like, oh my gosh, what happened to him? And Hindley's like, I don't know, he caught something. And this is like, okay, now we have neatly disposed of all of the children.
Yep.
Okay, so what were you going to say?
I mean, I was going to so much. So I was basically going to say, when Catherine dies, it's a beautiful scene because Nellie is obviously at the Linton's house at this point, and Heathcliff is waiting outside. And it's the scene where like Heathcliff curses and everything like that when he finds out that she dies.
Yep.
It is one example among many in this movie that are perfectly cinematic.
Yes.
Because this is a goddamn movie, and it's not a play, and it's not a book. It's a movie. Nellie walks out, and there are no words spoken in the entire scene. She basically looks at him, and he looks at her going like, is everyone okay? And she just shakes her head no, with a tear coming down her face.
Yes.
And that's it.
And like Catherine and the baby, implication being they're both dead. Catherine and the baby both dead.
Like I don't want to we could spend an hour talking about this version because it was the most fun.
Yeah.
But when we kind of go through all the major like notes that we've taken, this is going to come up multiple times that it's a very cinematic movie.
Yeah. But like one of the things I just love what they did with Nellie. She's just always there.
She's the best part of the whole thing.
Do you remember the part where she's like eavesdropping on them by just like walking back and forth behind the room?
So for context, it's the scene where Catherine has already married Edgar. They are at their house, and suddenly a visitor arrives from Gimmerton, which is the town nearby, and it's Heathcliff, but he's been gone for a while. And Nellie comes in, she's like, there's a visitor. It's Heathcliff.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and Nellie is sent away.
Yeah.
Like Edgar sends her away.
You may go.
But the room that they're in, there's another room kind of adjoining it through a doorway. And it's amazing because you just see Nellie walking back and forth across, clearly eavesdropping on everything that they're saying. It's one of 50 amazing Nellie moments in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I just loved because they're taking her function as being a narrator away from her, right? Because she is not there's no framing device, but they didn't take away her importance in the story.
She's our empathetic like conduit into the movie.
Exactly.
Into the story.
Yeah. They did so many fun things in this. The scene where like they're all in the kitchen and Heathcliff's there, but he's not supposed to be there. And Linton is
I
like,
wanted to talk about that one.
yeah, he's like, I want, like, Catherine's like trying to make them fight, and then like Heathcliff like escapes the house, and he's just like jumps through a window screaming and like scattering the servants.
I literally wrote down Heathcliff's escape is the best thing I've ever seen.
It's so good.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's every aspect of it is amazing. Can we go back to the beginning though?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to run through some things because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. One choice they make when all the characters are like middle-aged, for them, where they're not kids anymore, but they're also not like adult, after Heathcliff has come back. One of the things that they clearly do is that while Hindley is gone studying, Nellie is pining after Hindley.
That's right.
And Catherine knows about it and supports it. She thinks it's great.
Yes. Yeah, so he comes back and she's like, he's here. Like, you look really nice. Like, come on out and say hi. And then they come out.
And he does not give a shit.
Well, who's with him?
Because he has a wife.
Yeah.
And it breaks Nellie's heart, which immediately gets us into empathizing with her.
Yeah.
But it was a great choice that they made. Also, quick sidebar, Hindley is amazing. It's Julian Glover from like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Game of Thrones. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's just like super drunk and
so good in this.
Weird and gross.
And he also gets his little hero moment at the end, which we'll talk about when we get to the end.
Okay.
There's a thing that happens in this movie that I didn't expect, which is that they actually make me have empathy for Joseph. Because when Hindley comes back, he immediately tells Nellie and Joseph, you're not sleeping in the house anymore, you're sleeping above the barn from now on. Because I'm back and I'm master of the house and my dad's dead.
Yeah.
And Joseph is just like kind of sad.
Yeah.
And he's like the candy man.
Yeah.
And he's kind of sad. And I felt bad for him. And this is the first time I felt bad for Joseph.
Well, and the other thing too is that I think the understanding is supposed to be that servant, that random servant with the long hair that Heathcliff kind of beats up and abuses at one point is Joseph's daughter, because he's like beating her up and she's like, I'm going to tell my father, like, you're not doing a good job, like being my boss here. And Joseph's just kind of like, like it's, there's a whole family saga apparently with Joseph.
Yeah. Everyone's so shitty to Nellie. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Everyone's terrible to her the entire time. Catherine is terrible to her. Heathcliff's terrible to her. Hindley's terrible to her.
And then she outlives them all. She gets her boobs out at the funeral.
Yeah. I mean, she has, I think, a good end.
I think she's fine.
Yeah, she's okay by the end of it.
Yeah, she's fine. Well, because there's no Kathy, so there's no one that she's even like protecting at the end. It's just her, like, sort of still a young woman. Like, she could make something of herself.
In fact, I came up with a new drinking game, which is if you want to watch this movie and do a drinking game, every time someone's shitty to Nellie, take a drink.
You'd be pretty drunk by the end.
And when someone tells her to leave the room, take two.
You'd be drunk
because
by the
that
end.
happens a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's like they're shitty and then they tell her to get the fuck out. It's fantastic.
It's a really good version. Where is this one available? Where did we watch this?
We watched this. We had to rent it on Vudu.
Oh God. Okay.
Which it's available.
It's available.
It's easy and it's worth renting.
Of
it's
anything
so good.
we saw, I'd recommend watching this one.
Yeah. The thing that happened that was just so great is that once we hit the third act, it was so refreshing and so much fun to not know where things were going. We didn't know that little Kathy and Linton were not going to be in it.
Yeah.
Like suddenly Kathy's dead but that happens really close to the end of the movie. So you're watching the time tick by going there's
like,
only 20 minutes left. Are they going to do the whole thing? Because we didn't know whether they were or weren't.
Yeah.
And then suddenly little Kathy dies and Lockwood's not in it. It was just really fun not knowing what they were going to do.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Edgar's super fun in it, but can we talk about the end?
Yeah.
It is not what's in the book, and it's not what we've seen in any of the other versions. That being said, I kind of loved it, and I think it's great. Basically, we get back to the beginning. So the funeral has happened, because it happens right after that scene where, Nellie says, no, she shakes her head no.
And then we're at a funeral, so clearly she has died.
And, in the book, Heathcliff has this, it's years after, and he's fine being a piece of shit. And then the thing that makes him lose the will to live is that suddenly Kathy is haunting him.
Yeah.
But it takes years for that to happen. In this, though, he basically leaves the funeral and immediately starts seeing Kathy in a ghost form.
Oh yeah, she's at Wuthering Heights, beckoning him, and,
right?
Walking through walls and driving him mad as he has requested.
And there are some really great little creepy scare shots in this.
Yeah.
There was one cut in particular that genuinely made us jump, which is great. That's what I want. I want that kind of creepy stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really great is that the thing that we know from all the other versions is that Hindley wants to kill Heathcliff, but he's never able to do it. and then he dies.
Yeah.
Right? In this one, though, it ends. So Isabella, we haven't even talked about Isabella and the way Heathcliff kisses her with tongue.
Ugh.
It's really gross.
It's so gross.
But
I
he
hate
treats
it.
Isabella like shit. She finds out, just like in the book, she finds out immediately that this was a mistake.
Yeah.
But she does leave. She does get married to Heathcliff, finds out a mistake. She's trapped at Wuthering Heights. Her brother won't talk to her. He's a piece of shit in this one, too. He's this great, beautiful fop. He's amazing. He's probably the most beautiful Edgar we've had so far. He's just a very handsome, open-faced man.
Yeah.
So Isabella's at the house. She hates Heathcliff. Hindley is there. He hates Heathcliff. And we get this great thing. While Kathy is leading Heathcliff back and driving him crazy, we cut back inside Wuthering Heights, and there's Hindley standing there with his gun, standing next to Isabella saying, "Are we going to fucking do this?"
And she's like,
"Fuck yeah."
no,
I'm
she's
paraphrasing.
kind of like,
She's kind of scared.
She's kind of like, if you must, go ahead.
Yeah.
I give you permission.
And then we go back outside, and basically Kathy is standing between Heathcliff and the gun, and she lures him to his death.
Yep.
Kathy gets him fucking killed. And yes, this is an interpretation. No one actually says. It is never stated explicitly. The ghost of Kathy's plan was to get Hindley to kill Heathcliff so that he could be dead. That's never
so that he could be dead.
That's never stated explicitly, but that is my interpretation of it, and I fucking loved it.
Yep.
It was great.
Yes.
And it's just what a fun movie.
It was super fun.
I have a couple other things to read about this. Do you mind if I do that before we move on?
I don't mind.
To 1978. I want to talk about one of the producers of this movie, Lewis Hayward. I've got this amazing quote from him. I want to be clear before I read this quote. I don't fully endorse everything he's saying, but I think it does say a lot about what the perspective of this movie was, because the production company was American, but it's all British people making this movie. So this is the quote from him. "I'm the only American here. For the first time in 30 years, Hollywood said to me, 'No big names, no huge publicity, just a good film that stands on its merits.' This is very encouraging, except now we stand naked in judgment. It has to be really good with $2 to $3 million invested. The last version with Laurence Olivier as Heathcliff and Merle Oberon as Kathy portrayed him as a regular nice guy and her as sweetness and light. That was not the truth, and Hollywood now goes in for the truth. Heathcliff was a bastard and Kathy a real bitch, and that's how they'll be in this film."
Good for him.
That's fucking great.
Yeah.
And
why not?
I love, oh man, it's so good. There was something about that. I'll read this super quickly. This was Gene Siskel's review from 1970. 1 star out of 4 wrote that the actors, quote, "are simply not equal to the demands of the script that, if not controlled, easily slips into laughable melodrama," adding that the film has the unfortunate physical appearance of a vampire tale. He's
not wrong, but it's enjoyable melodrama.
But that's the thing. These are features, not bugs.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't call that a 1-star performance. I give that 5 out of 5.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times, this was what he wrote, and I think this is a great thing to end on. "At the tag end of 1970, the sight of Emily Bronte's Kathy Earnshaw running all over those Yorkshire moors shouting, 'Heathcliff, Heathcliff,' seems supremely silly, at least in American International Pictures' handsome new version of Wuthering Heights. The trouble is that it's impossible to care about any of these people, so self-indulgent are they in their romanticism," which was exactly the problem that I had with the book.
Yeah.
As a result, this is back to Kevin, as a result, you come away from the film thinking how much healthier and honest are today's young people, the audience for which this picture presumably is intended.
Uh-huh.
I think that's beautiful. I love it. This is why this one is my favorite. It understands that these people are shitty, but it doesn't make the story less fun.
Yeah.
It actually makes that's again a feature, not a bug.
Exactly.
This one's super fun. There's a million things I didn't mention. It's a beautifully shot movie. Timothy Dalton's performance is weird and amazing.
The whole movie's weird and amazing.
It's super fun.
It was really fun to watch.
Yeah. So far, this is, I don't want to speak for you, but this is my favorite version of it so far. This is the one that any other version needs to be.
It's certainly the most enjoyable, I will say.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on?
I do want to move on.
Okay. So 8 years later, they made another miniseries of Wuthering Heights because we can't get away from Wuthering Heights. Got to have one for every generation.
Yep. Directed by Peter Hammond. It was 5 episodes, written by Hugh Leonard and David Snowden.
We've heard Hugh Leonard before.
Yeah, Hugh Leonard's come up before.
Yep.
He'll come up more, I'm sure. Stars Ken Hutchison as Heathcliff, Kay Adshead as Catherine Earnshaw. There's a few other people.
And the worst wig in the world.
Yeah, Heathcliff's wig is pretty terrible.
So terrible.
It's got bangs.
It's got bangs. It's like a mullet it's like a poofy mullet with bangs.
Yeah.
But like a lot of hair.
Yeah.
Like a lot of hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Okay. This is all I'm going to read is my first note, and I think then you can probably take it.
Okay.
It is the only one that, kind of separately from my first note, it is the only one that both does the entire book and keeps the Lockwood framing.
This is all true.
It doesn't do the thing you talked about where like we jump back and forth in time throughout.
Right.
But so far, I think we can both say this is the most faithful to the text.
That is true. I did write down, my first note is the closest dialogue to the book.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Here's where the problem started happening for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to read my note. Because the Lockwood scene has happened. Where he's like, oh, this must be your, this is your daughter. Or no, this must be your wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then she's married to this guy, Harriton. And no, she's not married to him. And it's very embarrassing, and it's a very funny scene in the book. My note is that the Lockwood scene wasn't particularly funny, which might be the canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm. If you can't make that scene funny, like what's going to be funny?
I found it kind of unbearable to get through, but not in a fun way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just going to state my opinion super quick.
Okay.
I fucking hated this version. I hated every goddamn minute of it.
This like tortured Jeremy. He was suffering. And it's funny because usually the roles are reversed. Usually there is something that like, even if he doesn't like it, like he's like he's fine about getting through it. He's like, it's fine. Let's just keep watching it. Like it's totally fine. And I'm the one going like, do we even have to finish it? This is so bad. I'm so bored. I hate it so much. And this one I was like, I don't hate it. Like I'm enjoying watching it. I'm ready for it to be over, but like I don't hate it, and he was suffering from my observation. Do you feel like that's an accurate statement?
No, that is accurate, but I want to be really careful about this because I have a lot of notes from this one.
Yeah.
Very few of them are good.
Yeah.
But I know you liked it, so I don't necessarily want this section to just be me shitting on it.
I'm not even going to say I liked it. I just didn't hate it as much as you clearly did. I didn't hate it that much. I was intrigued by some of it. I mean, okay, let me tell you what it made me think of.
Okay.
Remember when we did Romeo and Juliet?
Yes.
One of the versions that we watched was like the BBC version. They did like sort of a completionist set of all Shakespeare's plays.
Like in the 70s.
70s,
yeah.
like maybe early 80s. And the version of Romeo and Juliet had a very young actress in it. I think she was like 14 or 15 playing Juliet, which is really cool. Like we admired that they cast her, accurate to her age, because we saw some where Juliet was very old. But the other thing about these versions is they weren't cut. Like they were complete. They didn't cut any of Juliet's speeches. So watching this poor 14-year-old actress struggle through these uncut, dense speeches that everyone cuts was a slog. And we felt bad for her. She was doing her best. And that's what it made me think of, watching these actors like trying to get through this largely uncut dialogue, this largely original dialogue from Wuthering Heights. It was like, oh, this scene doesn't work if you don't cut any of the dialogue, because it turns out Emily Brontë didn't know what a movie was and wasn't writing a script. Like, it's okay to make this into a script, and you didn't really do it here, and it didn't quite work.
I mean, just to be even more specific, like, it's not a movie, it's a TV miniseries.
Right, but I'm
which
saying
is
like,
but like, to your point, it is its own thing, which is separate from a book.
Yes,
a
correct.
movie is different than a TV show, which is different than a book, and they're all, I guess it gets points for being faithful.
Yeah.
But I actually think it gets as many points taken away for being too faithful.
I agree. And the thing that kind of bummed me out was I was looking forward to watching a mini series. I think this is longer than the Ian McShane one.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to, it being like Colin Firth, Pride and Prejudice, something where they get a chance to spend a little more time, and we get to spend a little more time with the characters. But like, to your point, I'm not sure I would say that they used that time as wisely as I would have wanted.
Yeah.
Can I say a thing that I did like that they did?
Sure.
They kept the actors young, the young versions of themselves for a very long time.
Yes.
We did not meet the adult actors for a minute. And I think that's, again, partly a product of it being a miniseries. You can take a little more time. Like, for example, the scene where Heathcliff and Kathy go over to the Lintons and like Kathy gets attacked by the dogs and they have to take Kathy inside and everything. Like in the book, they're still kids when that happens. They're like 12.
Mm-hmm.
In every other version we had seen so far, they were already, there's always been young Kathy, young Heathcliff. We see them in every single version. That is consistent throughout.
Yeah.
But in every single version we had seen up to this point, by the time we get to that scene, that sort of pivotal scene, they had already switched over to the adult actress. So it was always a little bit weird seeing this scene with adults like spying on these other adults and getting attacked by dogs. In this one, they did something that I thought was pretty smart, which is they had very young Kathy, very young Heathcliff for the time when he originally comes to them. Then they had sort of like young teen Kathy and young teen Heathcliff that did all the way through like this scene and some other scenes. And then even all the way through Hindley's marriage, Kathy was still a child. Like Hindley bringing his bride home, Kathy was still a child, and they didn't advance them. And the whole part where Hindley is being like really cruel to Heathcliff and like after his father dies, like telling him he has to go sleep in the attic and whatever, he's still a kid. Like he's not adult Heathcliff at this point. I don't know if they did this on purpose or if because they had cast an actor who was a little bit older for older Heathcliff and he would have been absolutely ridiculous doing this scene.
Yes.
But, we don't see older Kathy and older Heathcliff for a good while. And I liked that choice. I thought it was very true to the book.
Agreed. I have a couple of good things to say about it.
Okay.
Kathy has a temper tantrum at some point. I think after, she's already an adult. And I did write down that it was A, believable, and B, goddamn fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean, it was believable.
And I know that because I have a toddler.
I was going to say it was believable because it was very reminiscent of what our toddler does, which is when he doesn't get what he wants, he may just lie down on the floor and sort of fake scream. I won't scream into the microphone, but it's just sort of
but
like...
Kathy does that. She just kind of like her temper tantrum gets so big that she just lies down and won't let anybody move her.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It's great.
There is one moment in it that is a little more fucked up than almost anything that was in the 70 version. Like, I think in a good way, but maybe not necessary. There's just it's just in the background while like someone is walking through the scene. It's years later. Hareton is a kid at this point, and they've got these puppies, and he's just sitting there with a piece of rope, making a noose and putting it around one of the puppies' necks.
Yeah.
It's not the focus of the scene. Like, it's like Nellie or someone running through, and Hareton's just like putting a noose around a puppy's neck, and then she's gone, and we never hear anything about it again. Like, that just fucking struck me, because that was a choice that they made.
Yeah, that's not from the book, I don't think.
And that's like, if what you're going for is like a horror version of it, that's a good choice. It just didn't fit in with the rest of this because that's not what they were going for.
Yeah, we like as ourselves have sort of this fun private running joke whenever we see like dogs in movies who are like in any kind of peril. Like we have this whole thing where this may not translate this may be a kind of you had to be there thing.
There's two running jokes we have about dogs in movies.
Yes, one is Go ahead, say the first one.
One is, the thing you'll always hear is, this dog is dead.
Yeah.
Because any movie older than like 20 years, it's pretty much a guarantee.
The dog is dead.
That the dog is dead.
Or any animal that you see.
It's dark, I apologize.
Yeah,
but anyway,
so I was like,
the other
dog's
thing
dead.
is really cute and fun for us. I'm really hoping that this translates.
I'm really hoping this translates. Is this idea that the dog, speaking as itself, understands that it's an actor and wants you not to be nervous for it. So
well, it's
like,
always talking to the other actors.
It's talking to the other actors like I'm gonna do my dog voice on the podcast. I don't know that I've ever done this. I do this voice constantly, but only in our own private lives.
Your whole family does like Lipshaw dog voice.
Yeah.
So like for me, before we started dating, obviously dogs have voices. Like I think this is not a crazy thing. Like I walk down the street and if I see a little dog, the voice I hear in my head for the little dog is like, I'm a little dog. And if it's a big dog, it's like, I'm a big dog. But then when I met your family, your entire family does Lipshaw dog voice.
Yeah.
And Lipshaw dog voice is one voice that every single dog in the world has.
Yeah.
They all talk exactly the same.
So anyway, our whole thing is like, so say you saw a dog. There was one that he had hung up the dog by its neck
from the book.
Yeah.
This is the only version that we see that.
Yeah, so we see that like Heathcliff basically tries to kill Isabella's dog as he's like abducting her out of the house in the nighttime, and it's this really cute dog.
Well, he's abducting her. She thinks they're eloping.
She thinks they're eloping. But because
It's
clearly
like a
they
Cocker
didn't
Spaniel
want,
or something.
yeah, but because clearly they didn't want to harm the dog or even like accidentally harm the dog. It's not like in a noose. It's just sort of in this sort of like hammock.
Harness?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like harness or hammock that it's hanging up in the tree with its arms hanging down and is looking really pitiful. So
Nellie comes out and finds it and like takes it down immediately.
and it's a really cute dog. And our whole thing is like the dog understands it's an actor but wants to put you at ease. So it's like,
No. Don't worry.
I am an actor.
I am an actor. I am only an actor. It's
it
totally
is,
fine.
It is only pretend. Do not worry. It is pretend.
One of my friends put me up here. It's totally okay.
He's my friend. I am not harmed. It is okay. I am doing a good job. I am doing acting. Shh, don't tell anybody. It is acting.
That's Lipshaw dog voice, everybody. So that's, I said I was going to say a good thing. That's kind of the noose around the puppy's neck. Okay, here's another good thing. This is maybe my favorite choice in the entire show, and I would have loved to see it in a better version. When Linton dies, we've seen Linton die only once before, because there's only one other version that had him. And when he died in the Ian McShane version, like, it was creepy.
It was gross.
It was definitely gross and creepy. This one, though, was really effective. Because basically, like, Linton, we haven't really talked about Linton very much.
He's got the consumption.
So in this version of it, he is gross and horrible in the whole thing. But he's got this, in like the later part of his life, he's got this like really, really labored breathing. So there's a scene where young Kathy, who has been forced to marry Linton, is sitting on the stairs in the house. And up in like his bedroom in Wuthering Heights, you can hear that labored breathing. And then suddenly the labored breathing stops.
Yeah.
And that's how they communicate to you that Linton has died. And I fucking loved that. That was the only thing in this entire show that like I genuinely thought was a great choice.
Yeah.
And was effective and creepy. I really dug it.
Yeah. You didn't like the house itself though, didn't you say it looked like a community theater set? Like there were just sort of like all these different like nooks and crannies, and it was like there's no like rooms. It's very weird.
It just was like a big open set with like exposed beams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say community theater. It just looked like theater.
Yeah.
Like it looked like a theater.
Like a bunch
set.
of different stairs going all different places, but like not like anyone's house would be.
Yeah, it didn't work for me in the context of a TV show.
Yeah.
But I think we need to talk about Nellie for
Yeah.
a second, because Nellie is played by an actor named Pat Haywood.
We loved her.
Who you brought up Romeo and Juliet before.
Yeah.
She's the one who plays the nurse in the Franco Zeffirelli version.
And she was great.
And she was amazing in. And this was, what is this, like a decade later
10
or
years
something
later,
like that. It was very exciting to see her. And at first, she was our favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
She's really good. She's very good, really cares about it. She did not just show up. She showed up to fucking act, which you can't say about everyone else in this. Like, there's a reason we haven't talked about Ken Hutchison.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him in a minute. I think we
Right.
we need to end with him.
I'll be like, let me talk about Hindley for a second. I don't want to shit on... I feel bad shitting on someone, but like this performance is not good.
Yeah.
The thing I wrote down is like, this actor could not have been their first choice. There's no way he could be their first choice because he's just not good in this.
Yeah.
He's miscast. So we liked her at first. But then throughout, this thing kept happening where I don't know if it was her. I didn't know if it's that they didn't know what to do with her. Basically, big, like, crazy things happen, and her reaction is so subdued that I actually think they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And they weren't trying.
Yeah.
So, for example, Isabella escapes Heathcliff.
Yeah.
After, she's pregnant with Linton, and she
Yeah.
wants to escape, and she does escape him and goes and has Linton. She comes in through the window of Thrushcross Grange covered in blood.
Yeah, it's raining. She's soaking wet. It's raining. She like jumps through the window, and Nellie's like, "Oh."
And I was like, "Hello, hi." Her reaction is so subdued. It took me out of it completely. It made no sense. And then later, Nellie finds out that Heathcliff like opened up Catherine's grave and like looked at her body and stuff like that. And he tells her, "I went to her grave and I opened it up and I looked at her dead body." And Nellie's like, "Oh, that seems like a bad thing to do."
Yeah, like, it's probably not great. It's not what you want.
Took me out of it completely.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this could keep happening throughout the show. I think I finally figured out my biggest problem with the show, and it absolutely has to do with Nellie.
Yeah.
Can I get on my soapbox for a second?
Sure.
Here's my grand pronouncement about this whole thing. Here's my big problem with this show. There's the thing that happens that we talked about where Kathy suddenly decides that she wants to be kind to Hareton.
Yeah.
She's been really mean to him because he's a dum-dum, but now she wants to be nice to him and teach him things.
Yeah.
In the book, we are getting all of this through Lockwood, who got all of it from Nellie, and all she's doing is telling Lockwood, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. She's not privy to every single thing that happens in the lives of these characters.
Right.
Right? So it kind of makes sense in the context of the book that someone would suddenly change on a dime.
Yeah.
And they would change their motivation and suddenly start doing something different.
Yeah.
And that mysterious kind of people are weird,
Yeah.
people do weird things. It works because you're getting all of this third hand through so many different people. I think that's a thing that works in the book. In this one, though, Kathy suddenly decides to start being nice to Harriton, and it didn't sit well with me, and I figured out why. This story is not from Nellie's perspective.
Yeah.
Because Lockwood's in it, but after the whole beginning happens where Lockwood sees the ghost, hears the ghost of Kathy and the hand and blah, 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 and Heathcliff's mad, like, suddenly we just cut back. He never meets Nellie and she's like, I need to tell you a story.
Yeah.
Like, that never happens. So the story, like, Nellie's a character in it, but the story is absolutely not from her perspective. But because they only show things that are in the book and don't really invent anything, we're not getting any of these things that actually tell us about these characters' motivation. Because I'm seeing these actions in a new context, I actually do need some explanation. I need some dramatic reasons for why Kathy would suddenly be nice to Harriton, because it comes out of nowhere, just like it does in the book. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, it does.
We just need something more because it's not actually from Nellie's perspective. It's from our perspective. And because we're the audience and we're given to see things that Nellie didn't see, why didn't we see that? Why didn't we see something that would explain that sudden motivation change?
Sure.
That's my big problem.
So up to this point, I feel like everything that you've expressed a problem with, like, I hear you and I hear where you're coming from. And I'm not even saying I liked it. I disagree. I'm just saying I didn't hate it as much as you did. But we're going to talk about something that I feel like we can be united on.
Yes.
This Heathcliff was bonkers banana pants.
And also nothing at the same time.
And also nothing at the same time.
How is that possible?
Yeah. I mean, part of it was I feel like he was hampered by sort of the makeup, hair, and costume choices that they did for him, because they made him like super pale. He's in the worst wig. And at one point, like, he just like goes away and he puts on a whole sheep like as his outfit. Do you remember that? He had like this big sheepskin vest on that just looked like he was wearing a sheep. And he is so repulsively unattractive. Like, Heathcliff has to have something, even though Kathy is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Heathcliff has to have some allure, like some thrall, like something that is pulling her to him uncontrollably, whether that's he's very handsome or he's very mysterious or he just loves her so much that it's it's uncontrollable and she can't help herself. This Heathcliff had none of that. He was just this ogre.
Yes.
And again, because it's a miniseries, we spent a lot of time with him, and he did not really grow. He didn't change. He didn't go on a journey.
He's not compelling.
He's not compelling, and he was just this old ghoul like the whole time. I didn't enjoy watching him on screen.
This is my problem that I'm talking about. I think you've hit on what my problem with the entire show is. Things just happen.
Yeah.
And if you as an audience member say to the filmmakers, why did this thing happen? The response is going to be the same every time. The response is just going to be, well, that's how it happened in the book.
Right. But they're not like drawing a narrative between those things. They've gotten rid of some stuff, but they haven't replaced it with anything.
Exactly.
So
I don't think I've ever been happier to finish something that we were watching.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
Which
when
is
this
funny
was done.
because we've watched some shit.
Yes.
So that's really saying a lot.
This was torture to me.
I'm so sorry. So we have come to the end of things that we have. Well, actually, I won't say things that we have watched because we watched some stuff.
We did watch some stuff. This is a little thing. We don't need to spend that much time on it.
I don't know how to describe this #1 hit single from 1978. We don't do a lot of clips on this show, so I don't know if we're going to put in a clip here, and if you end up doing that, you can take this out.
No, I am going to put it in. So let me just describe this. If you have not heard this song, I'm hoping most of you have heard this. And if you have heard it and you've forgotten, like, you'll remember it. If you haven't heard it, all I'm going to play is the first few seconds of it because this song, Kate Bush's vocal grabs you from second one. It is bonkers banana pants.
Yeah, if you haven't heard this song or seen the music video, Jeremy's going to link to, there's at least 3 different official music videos of this song. I would recommend watching all of them to get the full picture.
But anyway, here's the first few seconds of the song.
Out on the winding, windy moors, we'd roll and fall in breeze. You had a temper like my jealousy, too
Okay, so how's that for a fucking intro?
It's like nothing you've ever heard. First of all.
It is crazy to me. This song shouldn't exist. So some background on this. This was Kate Bush's first. Kate Bush is fantastic.
She was 19 when this was made.
Yeah. So when she, like several years before this happened, she saw the 1967 version.
Yeah.
She only caught the end of it, which is when the ghost of Kathy is like, I'm Catherine Linton. It's so cold. Let me through your window. Heathcliff. Like, she only saw that. Then she started reading the book and then wrote a song.
Yeah.
She did not watch the whole show. She did not read the entire book. And she wrote a #1 hit song based on the limited experience she had with it. And the song is basically from the perspective of dead Kathy saying, Heathcliff, I'm back.
Yeah.
That's essentially what the song is.
Yeah.
And it was...
It's called Wuthering Heights. I don't know if we mentioned that.
It's called Wuthering Heights. It was on her debut album, The Kick Inside. It was a UK #1 single for 4 weeks. It was in the top 10 in many countries. It is her most successful single of all time. Pitchfork named it the 5th greatest song of the 1970s.
It's amazing.
And since 2016, so the music video you mentioned... The original first music video is her in a red dress doing an absolutely insanely choreographed dance.
Self-choreographed.
Well, I was going to say, I can't imagine who she found to choreograph it. She did not find anyone. She did it herself.
Yes.
So there's a thing that's been happening since 2016. I don't know what happened with COVID, but anyway, called the Most Wuthering Heights Day Ever, which is a worldwide flash mob that has been reenacting the dance from the original Wuthering Heights video. Here's a cool little factoid. She and Emily Brontë have the same birthday.
That's, amazing. I guess you got a 1 in 365 chance, right?
Right? But, you write a hit song, do it for a book that you share the birthday with the author for.
I had the
sentence I just said.
I had the suggestion that we should learn the dance and, post it for people somewhere. Jerry, I was shot down. That suggestion did not go anywhere.
We will never be as good as Noel Fielding, who is another video I'm going to link to, but he did the entire dance on stage, and it was incredible.
But if anyone is interested in seeing us learn the dance and record it, you should email us at adapterparishcast.com
and pay us a lot of money.
And I would do it for free if there's interest in it.
I would watch you do it for free. I would not
No, it's
participate.
only funny if we both do it.
Not going to participate.
Only funny if we both do it.
I kind of hated this song at first.
Yeah.
Then I didn't hate it.
It's grown on me.
Then I kind of liked it. Now I love it and I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
It's a great song. It is so good. I guess my favorite thing about it is that it is based on such a limited understanding of the story.
Yeah. It's just like, there's a ghost. She wants to come in. You should let her.
And it hits so much of what we talked about in terms of the cultural understanding of the story, the culturally accepted understanding, which is that Heathcliff and Kathy are these tortured lovers, that we can all kind of see some of ourselves in.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense if your experience of the story is just the very end and the very beginning. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You haven't seen any of the shitty things that Heathcliff has done to anybody, or any of the shitty things that Catherine has done to anybody.
That's right.
I get that, but I don't think that's a knock against the song. I think that's one of the things I love about the song because it illustrates my point beautifully.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it. Do you want to wrap up? Do some quadrants?
Should we do quadrants now, or should we save it for the end of episode 2?
No, let's save it for the end. We'll do a big quadrants at the end of episode 2.
All right.
We got more to come.
We've got so much more. I'm not even going to list everything we're going to talk about in episode number 2 because we still have to go through all of it, and we might find extra ones here or there.
Yeah.
There's
we will.
There's one version. Anyway, we'll get to all of that stuff. But anyway, episode 2 of Wuthering Heights is going to be coming to you in 2 weeks, and I'm very excited to finally be done with Wuthering Heights. But I guess the only thing I'll say is that 1970, seek it out. It is so good and so much fun.
It's pretty good.
I want to put my full endorsement behind it. Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 3 great ways that you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. Third, we are on Patreon. This show will always be free, but if you become a patron, you can get access to Adapter Parish Plus, our bonus show that releases every other week between episodes of this show, and our patron-only Slack community. That bonus show, by the way, has turned into just us talking about musicals every episode. So if you like that, then you should subscribe. It's been a lot of fun, and all the details are at patreon.com/adaptcast.
You gonna do this with me, or am I doing it by myself?
Out on the wily
windy moors we roll and fall in green. You had a temper like my jealousy, too hot, too greedy.
And it just gets better from there.
So good.